Hey crafters, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our candy cauldron. I've got all my pieces cut out in front of me here, and we've broken this down into, well, two sections. The cauldron and the little witch that goes behind the cauldron, who's carefully just protecting her goodies. And we're gonna start off by putting together the actual witch. It's gonna be very, very straightforward. It's essentially just some paper piecing. Okay, first three layers go on flat, and they are these three layers here. We're gonna start by putting this skin tone on top of this super vibrant orange. So let's get going with that. Nice and easy with the glue. Make sure that I'm in frame here. And with this, I think it's a good idea to, once we get these layers together, to maybe just put this underneath your craft mat to let it really dry super flat. Okay, let's get that all nice and lined up as accurately as possible. Just like that, press that down. Okay, if you have a brayer, that might prove helpful. Okay, next, I'm gonna put this black layer down, and you can see we have just some little accents for the robe, as well as the hands that still show through, making it super simple. And it should be pretty sturdy. One thing I thought about was potentially just hot gluing a little dowel along the back to keep this thing nice and propped up. Depending on the thickness of your paper, you may or may not need to do that. Well, you know, paper is not like plastic, and it has a tendency to succumb to gravity more so than other more rigid materials, but I think we'll be okay. There's ways to solve all these little challenges. Okay, so I put glue on most of this. I did not put glue on these little details here by the fingers, because what I'm going to do is take a scrap piece of paper and put a nice thin amount of glue and just slide it right underneath these little layers right there, and then press them down instead of trying to get a ton of glue on them directly and then just making a huge mess everywhere. It's just easier to do that. There we go. Okay, so that's pretty much the body. Now, I just need to put together her face. I'm gonna start off with this larger purple layer, and you wanna just ink here and here. That's the only area that's really gonna show through. And I'm gonna glue this completely down flat, or I'm gonna glue this down completely flat. And the second layer of hair that we put on top of this, I'll actually do a little bit of training to add some dimension to the hair so it's not so flat. Okay, but with this, obviously, all we're doing here is just matching it up with the shadow layer. I did ink the actual hair on this green part, just like the tips of it and the sides, right at the bottom here. Okay, so press that down into place. Okay, and we are going to build the face onto this layer. Okay, so we can actually build the face separately. So let's do that. We're going to start by putting the black layer on top of the white layer. So this project is actually very well engineered so that we have very few pieces. Okay. Now before we put this color in, let's put the little green parts of the eyes in place. They're going to be kind of on a little bit of a slant. Okay. And you can see that there are some markers there to help you with the placement. Just get it right between those two little markers. And then you'll notice that there's a little bit of white in the center. Now, we didn't want to try to cut tiny little black circles. So grab yourself a little thin marker. I'm speaking like Yoda today. grab a thin little marker and just color in the middle section there with a little bit of black, like so. There we go. Okay, next we're going to take the skin tone and get that glued into place. Just go easy with the glue. It's relatively small, this piece, so you don't need a lot. Get a little bit on her nose, and let's just match that up with the overall perimeter. Here we go. Press that down. Okay, and then we're going to take this whole layer and glue this onto this layer here. Just use the chin as your guide for placement. Make sure it's nice and centered. Just like that. Okay, there we go. That looks cool. All right, next we're going to build the second layer, the top layer of the hat. Okay, and I just inked right here where the strands of hair are. I'm going to take this purple layer, glue it on top of the green. This is an Apple Martini by Coordinations. It's kind of like a mix of cardstock with just a hint of sparkle to it, a little bit of glitter without going too crazy. I had another purple pattern that I was going to use, but it was just a little bit too small out of my scrap stash, but that's okay. And you can see I did ink that with some nice purple ink. I'm going to put the little band in place, and that's going to go right here, like so. Just match it up with that little bump there on the side of the hat, like that. And then we're going to go with a gold glitter for the buckle. Don't really have to ink that. I don't think it would really show up very well anyway. There we go. Okay. And if you want, what you can do is take and just place the little strands of the hair between your finger and a dowel, and then just kind of curl it towards you to kind of create a little bit of dimension there. And we'll flip this over and throw some foam squares. I'll do 3 in the main part with the larger foam squares, and then I'll probably just take 2 of the smaller ones, put them out towards the end of the hats, around the brim, and then we'll go ahead and take the foam squares off, and we're just going to line this up with the existing shadow layer there, making sure that everything looks nice and aligned. And there we have it. Okay, so there's our cool witch. And now we just need to take and glue this right onto the body, like so. And let me take a look here real quick, see if any of this hair is actually sticking off. It's not. So you could literally put glue on this entire thing. If you want to foam square this, you can as well. Okay. There we go. And pop that right into place, and there she is. Okay, so she's pretty much good to go. Now we just need to build our little cauldron that will act as our little candy dish. And we'll fuse these two together once that's all said and done. Now, what we need to do here first is put together the main structure, which is going to be made up of these pieces here, and they are all numbered as well. So I want you to go through and just kind of organize these by number. Okay, and while you're doing that, take and fold everything at the score marks just to get them ready to go. Okay, you can see the Roman numerals here down at the bottom. It's kind of a Roman numeral situation. Here's Roman numeral 2. The number 4 is 4 dashes in the shape of a square. Okay, I'll draw that out for you. I usually do this during my videos. Let's see. This is the bottom. I can write on this. It's fine. No one's going to see this. This is a 4. Okay. This is a 5, 6, 7, and then 8 is 2 of these next to each other. Okay. So just get those all in order. Get everything scored and folded, and we will start putting together the cauldron. Okay. So I have everything lined up. Now, one thing that I want to mention here is you'll notice that there are 3 little score markers at the top of each of these sections. This first one here, the first fold, is going to be a valley fold, so it's going to come towards you. Then it's going to go up, and then it's going to go in. Okay, so it's essentially a little lip for the top of the cauldron. It's going to look like that. Each of these are going to go together that way. And when I actually put together a little prototype, because we were trying to decide if we were going to make this segmented or not, we opted to not make it segmented. And I found that starting here at this little tab just above the fold is the easiest way to do this. Now, it's important that you make sure that you line this up correctly. Okay, so the edge of this next piece needs to be lined up with that little score mark. So you can see how it's going over it like that. That's okay. And I'll show you why in a second, but it's very important that you get that lined up correctly, okay? Because what's going to happen here is we're actually going to, well, this thing's going to be round, obviously. And I'll show you what I mean. But that looks kind of strange right now, but trust me. So again, this edge right here, you'll see that there's a score mark here. Just take that edge and line it up and connect it like that. So this one's going to go over like this too. Now, as we move along here, it'll start to make more sense to you. Okay, but we need to get that piece anchored. Then we can move this out of the way. And I found that actually taking and applying glue to all of these tabs at the same time is a lot easier. Okay, and then this next layer, just want to make sure that again, you butt that up against the score mark as closely as you can. Same with the next one. And as you do that, you'll notice that this thing is starting to, I'm taking this piece now and I have to kind of push it in a little bit to line that up with that edge. And if you have a little bit of glue that's shooting out, it's okay. We have panels that are going over this, so it's not a big deal. But you can see now how seamless that looks, okay? And that's what we're going to need to do throughout this entire assembly process. And eventually, it's going to look like this. Okay, this is a prototype. Those are not the final colors, but you get the idea. Now, once we have this whole section glued in place, we can go back up here above that first little tab that we glued into place. And I'm going to throw a little bit of glue on that triangular tab. Now, this is just a straight up and down. It's not angled at all. Okay, and then this top part, we're going to flatten this out and we're going to apply glue to this tab, and you can see the angle of that little score mark. You're going to take and align the edge of its neighbor with that score mark, and that's going to create that little lip on top, so you can see what's happening here. Okay, this is what we're creating. We're creating a nice little lip for the top of the cauldron, and we're literally just going to repeat this process until we have the whole thing built. So I have 1 and 2 together. We're going to grab piece number, where did my piece number 3 go? I must have moved it. There it is. There's piece number 3, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with this tab here, the one just above this fold, okay? And you want to make sure that you have that lined up at the correct angle. It's going to overlap ever so slightly, like that, while we're holding it and getting it anchored. Okay, once it's anchored, you can move this out of the way, and let's get these tabs flared out a little bit so we can apply our glue. And just try to get it out to the edge, nice and thin. You don't want to put too much glue on this because, like I said, you're going to be sitting here for a decade waiting for everything to dry. And this piece that's in my right hand, again, bring it in and do your best to line it up with the little score marks on the existing piece that we already assembled, this section here. And just follow that natural curve. It's very simple. And just do your best. And it should go pretty quick. If you're using too much glue and you're noticing that it's not holding as quickly as mine is, then ease up on the glue a little bit. And you can just kind of go through and rub off any excess that might be there. Then we'll go back to the top, fold this back, apply glue to the triangular tab just above the one that was our anchor. Press and hold that. And then we'll bring this down, apply glue right here on this little triangular section, just like that, and line it up, line up the edge of this lip with that little score mark there. Okay. Now, as we progress and continue the assembly here, this thing will sort of kind of fight itself a little bit, but just trust the process. It will work out. Okay, so now we're on piece number 4, and we're gonna do the same thing here. Excuse me, starting on this tab here, nice and thin. Grab this, and if you have to thin it out more so you can see that score line better, that's fine. And just line it up at the correct angle, that edge with the score mark, just like that. And you can see how it doesn't look like it would ever work, but it will. Okay, give that a few seconds to really set. I gotta fold at that score mark there, and there we go. So we'll move this out of the way. It's good and anchored. Nice thin amounts of glue on each of these tabs. Try to get it out to the very edge. And then begin taking this piece that's in your right hand, probably your right hand. If you're left-handed, it's in your left hand, but, or maybe not actually. I've never even thought about that. How does that work with left-handed people? But you get the idea, and then just follow the curve. Get this piece lined up as accurately as you can with those little score marks on the previous layer. Just like that. Okay, so almost halfway home actually. This isn't too bad. Go back to this tab here, a little bit of glue. Now remember, this one is just nice and straight, nothing to it. Press that down. Okay, and as we go, kind of need to start forcing this thing into its ultimate shape. Throw a little bit of glue right there and line up the left edge of this little lip with that score mark from the previous piece. And there you have it. Okay. I just realized that I have another piece I need to cut out because I think mine kind of ripped. And that's okay. All right. So that's piece 4. Piece 5 also has a little F on the front of it. Okay, so that signifies that is the front of our project. Do the same thing here, starting off on this tab here. And get that lined up. Now, if this is kind of giving you trouble doing it at this angle, I'm going to make sure to splice this to the front of the video, to the beginning of the assembly. You could technically start down here if you want. Okay, I just thought that this was easier for me. Doesn't mean it's easier for you, but I will show you that process here in a second. Okay, and then just take this next layer, line it up, butt it up to those score marks as close as you can. Follow that curve. I'm kind of holding it at the bottom now and kind of pushing up on it a little bit to help shape it. I did for a second. Now I'm not so much. Now I am again, using my left thumb to kind of push this up a little bit. And there we go. Now you see this thing almost wants to close in on itself. We're gonna have to spread it out a little bit as we continue adding the next section, which is fine. It's totally expected. I know some of you have made similar projects with us before where we've got this sort of curvature. Okay, don't forget we gotta flatten this lip out now. And we're gonna put a little bit of glue on this triangular tab up at the top for the lip and just align the left edge of that tab with that little score mark and press and hold. There we go. Okay. Now, as I was saying, if it makes it easier for you, what you can do is start down here. Okay. You can start down here if you want. If it makes it easier, I will do that. I'll do one down here. So this process applies to the entire assembly of the cauldron structure. You could technically start down here. Just make sure you have it lined up correctly and that it is flush. This line here is not flush, but lined up correctly. I just think that there's more room for error doing it this way as far as the vertical alignment, which is why I opted not to do it. And then also, it's a little bit more difficult to get glue onto the next sets of tabs. It's not hard, it's just a little more, I think it's a little more awkward, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But you can see here now, I'm going the opposite way now. I'm going up. So there's more than one way to do this. Just from my personal experience, playing with paper and assembling these 3D projects, I have a pretty good grip on, what is the easiest way to do things. So that was just my suggestion. And hopefully that little blemish that I left there isn't where I think we're going to be okay. All right, then we can fold this back, and this is the original anchor point where I first started my other ones. Yeah, and that could work too. It's not, there's no wrong way to do it, again. So whatever feels more comfortable for you. I'm gonna go back to my original method just because I think that's more accurate. But this actually worked very well too. That being said, you could even start in the middle if you want, but I wouldn't do that because you're not really sure, because it's not horizontally segmented, where to actually place it. So we need a reference. We need to have some sort of reference to look at to ensure that everything is being aligned correctly. And that's why I opted to go with that score mark there first. Okay. All right, so far so good. We only have 3 pieces left for this guy, and it's going pretty well. So just continue doing the same thing. Nothing has changed here at all. Just repeating the same process, which means that you can either pause me and continue what you're doing without me, or you can hang out for some story time. Okay, again, going down here. So it's September 6th, 2024. Tomorrow is my birthday, and it's funny, ever since 2009, 2010, when I first got into this industry, Halloween's definitely my favorite holiday. It's just, I love Christmas probably more than Halloween, but there's just more stuff to do because it's not Antarctica outside, you know what I mean? But every year on my birthday, I'm always, well, at least for the last 14 years or so, I've always been in the studio putting together a Halloween project. So that is God being good to me. And not only am I turning a year older, but I get to do what I love. How blessed can one man be? And not only do I get to do what I love, being creative, but I get to do it Halloween style, which is even cooler. So God is good. Peyton now is going to be 2 in November. And he is, well, they say, I don't know if he's going to be terrible. They call him the terrible twos, but he is. I was telling a friend yesterday, I feel like he's really just figured out that he's alive. He's alive. He's realized, he's become aware of his consciousness, and starting to really string words together and chit chat, and it's just really fun to watch. I almost wish I didn't have as much on my plate so I could spend some time with him, but we did take a little trip up to the North Woods over Labor Day weekend to do some fishing, and Gavin and Gabby stayed back with their dad because of sports and things of that nature. So it was Liesl and I and Peyton and Grandpa, and one of my buddies came up there. So I really got to spend a lot of time with Peyton, which was really nice. And when we got home, I think he had grown accustomed to me being with him pretty much like 24/7 for about 4 nights. And it was da-da this, da-da that, da-da this, da-da that, grabbing my hand. Da-da toys. He's awesome. I keep saying that if I could just preserve him at this age, I would, but nothing is forever, unfortunately. And you guys were right. Well, you weren't the first people to say it, but boy, do they grow up fast. It's sad. It's sad. What are you going to do, though? Make the best of it. Okay, just kind of continuing on here. I've got 1 piece left, and then what we're going to do next is take these 2 layers, glue them together. They are going to be kind of the foundation for holding this thing together. It's going to give it its shape. It's also going to close it up so that it can actually act as a container. We'll do that. We have some handles that we need to install. Actually, we're going to do that after we put the panels on, which that, again, is going to be pretty straightforward as well. Okay, and that just leaves the last one. We're on the home stretch as far as this assembly goes. Again, I'm going to go back right up here to my favorite little tab, and we'll grab this guy. Again, focus on the angle. Get that anchored, press and hold. So we typically take a trip up to the North Woods for the colors in October, but over the years, well, the weather isn't always great. You know, I mean, we're darn near Canada at that point in early October, and man, there's been some years where it's super nice, and then there's been some years when we get there and there's snow on the ground, and I mean, Liesl and I, we don't mind, because we bundle up and we could fish for 8 hours straight without saying a word to each other and have the time of our lives. But it's not exactly the kids' favorite vacation, I guess. Well, Gavin loves fishing, so he could tolerate it, but Gabby's kind of a girly girl, and she basically just brings a blanket and sits there freezing on the boat, and I definitely did not want to bring Peyton up there. But Liesl did a really awesome job on the pontoon with him. She did a lot of Googling and TikToking, and actually put a little baby pool on the pontoon, filled it with water, brought a bunch of sand toys and beach toys, even threw some minnows in there for him to play with. He did awesome on that trip. We actually got a lot of fishing in. Per usual, I won the weekend, catching the biggest fish of the weekend. I mean, what can I say? They're not going to watch this, but the biggest fish that I caught him on accident. Actually, I wasn't even paying attention. He was on my line, but don't tell him I told you that. Okay. All right, so the structure is now complete for the most part. Now what we're going to do here is we have this piece here that has a little score mark, and then we have this piece here that has a little F on it. Okay, what we want to do is make sure that we glue this on so it's flush at the top. This piece with the F on it is a tiny bit smaller than this piece with the tab, but we do want to try to get it nice and centered. So we'll flip this around, apply our glue. This is more of a structural piece than anything. And I think the most challenging part of this assembly is coming up right now, but it's not difficult. We just need to be patient and take our time. Okay. Now this tab needs to face inside. What we're going to do is we're going to take this whole piece and just need to pop it in. This is going to be the back of our cauldron. Okay. So you can see what's happening here. It's going to go like this. All right, so when I did this, I found that anchoring it, there's a few places where we can start to anchor. Down here in this little corner is probably the sturdiest. So we'll start there. Okay, throw a little bit of glue on there, and you just want to make sure that you get that lined up as accurately as possible, and just press and hold that in place to get it anchored. Give that a few seconds, don't rush this part. And then, after we get that anchored, I'm going to go up here into this little crevice, and that should fit in there like so. We're going to get in there as deep as we can, right into that little nook. Okay, just like that. So let's pull this tab out. Nice thin amount of glue in there. And the left corner of that triangle should pretty much go right into that little corner there where the main part of the cauldron meets the little lip. So push that in as far as you can and hold it. Okay, these tabs, obviously we're going to glue them down, but we don't have to do that just yet. Not until we go over to the other side and do the same thing. And that is going to help create the shape for us. And you can see how just having it anchored on that one side is already making things so much easier for us. Okay, so now we're going to go over here to this tab. Just get that out of the way. Line that up as accurately as you can. Take a look at the little tabs here on the bottom. You can see the little score marks there. Just make sure that those are all in line. It's kind of hard to see if things are in line looking at them that way, but you can do it. Just press and hold that in place, and there we go. Okay, and we're going to go back to this top part up here again with this tab. Excuse me. I'm going to pull this back, and again making sure that the right edge of this triangle, the tab, is right into that nook as far as it'll go. And then just press and hold that in place. And it should be pretty much structurally sound. We'll get the rest of those tabs glued down here in just a moment. You can actually put this down flat on your surface. No, you can't. You could have. I just kind of jumped the gun there a little bit. I'm just going to give this a nice solid press. And there we go. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to help the anchoring on this a little bit more. And I'll flip this up. We'll go to the center and get these little tabs glued into place. Kind of help hold this thing's shape even more. You can actually put that down on your surface and then just press down from the inside onto those two tabs. There you go. Okay, let's go over to the other side now. Let's flip these two up. Apply your glue there and there. Fold them down. Push that down on your surface and press down from the inside. And this is turning out perfect. So that leaves these two tabs here and these two tabs here. It's just a little extra reinforcement. Fold them over on all four sides, put it down on your surface and press down from the inside. Perfect. This one didn't get enough love. It's okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, now, excuse me, you just need to glue. Let me move these tabs out of the way so you can see what I'm talking about here. This part here, you can see that little part there. Okay, need to get that glued into place. I'm going to start with the bottom tab first. So there's 3 triangular tabs. We'll do the bottom one first, and then we'll just make sure that it's lined up correctly, and then just press and hold. Give that a few seconds. That's all it should take. Okay. Then you can take and glue the top one down. Thin that out a little bit if needed. Make sure it's flush with the top. And just press and hold that into place. Like so. And then we can close it up by putting glue on that tab. And closing that up. You can actually now put that down on your surface and push down from the inside. And that is what that should look like. Okay, so we'll go over to this side now. Let's flare these out. And we might need to just kind of pull on this a little bit just to get it to the position we want it. And press and hold. Hey Siri, how much time left on the timer?
There's a timer with 2 minutes and 57 seconds.
Oh, geez. Okay, we'll go to the top one now. And if it's a little bit off, it's okay. Just try to make sure that it's flat on top. Like this is flat. You see how now it's sort of really taking its correct shape. And just be patient, let that really get a good grip. No sense in rushing things at this point. All right, and the final little tab, grab that, fold it over, and you can push down from the inside. And there we go. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take these 2 pieces here. There's one that says, has a little L on it, and one that does not. You can put this down like this. Let's apply glue to this long tab here on the back. Let's spread that out, nice and thin. Then we're going to take this piece, and we're going to line that up, nice and flush and centered, onto that tab. Give that a few seconds to get a grip. Then you can take it and just let it drop and press down. Okay, just like that. And then, I've done this before, we're going to put glue on tab, on the one with the F on it, the one in the front. I would not try to apply glue to all of these and try to close it like a lid. Not going to work. I mean, it might if you're lucky. All right, so we're going to get that glued down. I'm going to lift this tab up a little bit so that as I catch it, it actually grabs some of that surface. Get it centered and flush out onto that tab. Just make sure it's nice and straight and centered. And just hold it there, let that glue kind of start to set and get tacky before you move it. And once it has a little bit of a hold, drop it and press down on the rest of that tab. Make sure it's nice and centered and flush right there. Okay, that is really going to set the tone and make the rest of this assembly a snap. Okay, so we are going to paint the rest of the glue on here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this tab here where the little handles are going to go. Just take a little bit of glue, put it on a scrap piece of paper, and then just paint it. Okay, and then you can take, and this is all segmented so you can see the shape. Just align that with the shape of this bottom piece. And again, be patient while the glue gets tacky. Okay, so got that one in place, and we're going to continue using, excuse me, the little painting method. This is a scrap piece of paper with a little bit of glue, and we're just going to tuck this right in and just paint the glue onto the tab. If a little bit of that glue squirts out onto the side, not a big deal. But the reason I want to do this is because, well, we need to just make sure that everything gets aligned correctly. And if we do one at a time, we'll ensure that this all meets, the bottom of this aligns correctly with the actual structure. Because that's going to be important when we put the panels on, so that everything just looks seamless. And we're at a point now where, because we have this anchored and these two anchored, it's pretty much taken its shape. And it's very unlikely that, well, it shouldn't move at all unless you accidentally rip one of these or something. But I'm going to go to the next little tab here. It doesn't matter which one you apply glue to at this point. Just go ahead and get glue on the next one. And if you need to kind of push it in or out a little bit, that's fine. Just get it lined up as accurately as you can and press down. And there we go. That one's in place. This one here, I'm going to go to this one now. I don't think I really need to alternate locations at this point, because like I said, it's pretty much solid at this point. It's not going anywhere. I'm just painting glue on the next tab, and I might need to kind of nudge it out a little bit to get the base of this to be flush with that side. And then I'll just press down, and then press down on the entire tab from the inside, just like that. And I've got this little guy here in the corner that I still need to do. Very simple. And this time I'm gonna spread the glue onto the bottom instead of onto the tab. And you know, another thing you could do at this point, and I'll show you here in a second, if it makes it easier for you, is actually lift up the tabs from the inside and apply your glue from the inside. I have 3 tabs left. You can see the 3 that are, it's just not, I don't think it's as easy, but here's another way of doing it. I'm just going to show you. I got my scrap, I've got my tab that's lifted up, and I'm just painting the glue onto the tab. And that was tab number 3. I'm going to look at it from this angle here just to make sure it's correctly aligned. There we go. And now that one's in place. So that just leaves these 2. And I'll just do the same thing. Just paint that glue right onto the tab. There we go. Watch it from this angle to ensure an accurate seam. Just like that. And then we just have that one little small guy in the corner there. Right there. You can see him from the inside. Right there. And if you can get your glue nozzle in there, you can do that too. Okay, just make sure it's nice and aligned. And just press it down. Got a little bit of glue squirting out, don't worry about it. Because the next step is putting our panels in place. Okay? And before we do that, take a little bit of glue and put it right onto those tabs, on the back tab, and then a little bit in the center, like that. Take this piece with the little L on it and just drop it right in there. It should be flush with the back, and then nicely aligned with the rest of the tabs. That's just to kind of reinforce it. Okay, there we go. And there's our cauldron. So now, here's what we need to do. We need to grab Oh, I did not ink that one. I need to fix that. This is a white core paper, and obviously since this is a 3D project, I opted to do solids or the perforated score lines. Since it's white core, a little bit of white can show through sometimes. We're going to start on the letter F, okay? And let's make sure that looks great. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get this glued into place, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on the main part of this first, not on this little area here with the score marks. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to tuck this in and up as far as it'll go. You can actually pull this back so it's out of your way. And this is going on the F panel. I'm going to push that in as far as it'll go. Make sure it's centered so you can kind of bring it down like so. This is the middle of our jack-o'-lantern. And we want that all making good solid contact throughout. Good and centered. And then we can pull this back now and put a little bit of glue on that section and then a little bit on that top section. Push that in. Make sure you don't have any glue on your fingers. And press that into place, just like that. Okay, now this is the only one that's a little funky, just because, well, we're trying to make a face on here, right? So this is going to get glued down right here like that. And just make sure that this part is flush, just slightly above that little bottom piece. So the bottom of this should be right above that little bottom piece. Should be sitting on it, kind of. Okay. Just kind of rest it right onto that piece. Make sure it's centered. There we go. Just like that. And press and hold it in place for a moment. There you go. Okay. And then we'll just work our way around. So next, grab this part and we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, it's just going to go down like this, and this part you can kind of take it and just kind of curl it with a dowel, just to kind of get it moving in the right direction, so to speak. Okay, but you can see how this should ultimately end up, kind of like that. And we're going to do the same thing we did before, where we apply glue to the main part of this, not to the part at the top with the little tabs. And go easy with the glue here. We can always take and paint a little extra glue, but we don't want that glue shooting out and getting all over our structure. Okay, so just like we did before, maybe pull that back and tuck that in as deep as it'll go into that little crevice. Make sure it's centered, and then just lay that down onto the main structure. This does kind of have a mind of its own a little bit in certain parts, so just make sure that you're getting things aligned. Move them over a little bit if needed. And then I may need to go in and paint a little bit of glue onto some of these little areas. Like right there. The rest of these are going to be a lot easier because we're not dealing with a cutout of a pumpkin head. Get that one in place and pushing out from the inside to create a little bit more leverage. We'll throw a little bit right there. I noticed I didn't get enough glue on that. And just push. And there we go. Okay, so now we can fold this back, apply your glue onto these two tabs. The top one, just make sure you get the glue out to the very edge. Okay, tuck that in, make sure it's flush. If it helps, grab yourself a little dowel. It's kind of hard to get your finger in there. And then push this one up against the lip. And there we go. Okay, let's grab the final part of the face. And like I said, the rest of this is going to go a lot easier. I'm just kind of curving this a little bit, especially at these little points that are kind of solo, just to make it easier. Let's move this out of the way. We'll flip this around, apply glue to this entire surface, minus the little folded area at the top. And again, if you don't get the little details of the face in place correctly the first time, you can always paint that. Take the top edge of this, push it up as far as it'll go, make sure it's centered. You want it to be butting up against the panel directly to the left so that there's continuity in the face. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. And bring that down. Just like that. And then if there are any little imperfect areas in the seams, I'm going to probably just hit that with a little bit of ink, and that should clean it up for us. Okay, so we'll pull this part back, apply a little bit of glue there. There we go. Let me grab my dowel, get this part in place. And then the top. And there we go. That looks awesome. Okay, so now, obviously, we have two that have little cutouts. We have two that don't. And then we have two smaller ones. One that's curved this way, one that's curved that way. And pretty self-explanatory where they go. We don't have to worry about any faces with these. I'm going to start over here. And with this, you can just apply glue to the entire piece. Take it, shove it in there as far as we can. Make sure it's good and centered. There we go. Okay, and we can peel back this top part where the score marks are. Apply your glue. Let's get this one in place with the dowel. And this top one here kind of naturally just fell into place as I was holding it. And there we go. Okay, then we'll go over to this one with the handle. And let's apply our glue to the back. And again, just pop it in as far as you can into that little crevice. Make sure it's centered. And you don't want it overlapping, but you do want it butting up against that previous layer. And also make sure that it is on top of the little cutout for the handles. We need to get the handles in there too. So do not obstruct the little holes for the handles. But look how seamless that is looking. And I may even take and just do a little bow around there maybe. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how frisky I'm feeling. Could look cool. Or maybe just, not even a bow, maybe just some ribbon. Just to clean it up. I'm using the dowel in here because it is kind of a weird angle. And there we go. That looks nice. And that just leaves this last skinny guy. Again, putting glue on this entire surface. And we will pop that up and in as far as we can, nice and centered. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty darn seamless if you do it right. There we go. Now we can pull this back, apply our glue to the last two little sections. Grab your dowel to help you with getting that one in there. And then this guy should just naturally fall into place. And there we go. Okay. I love that, the black on orange there. All right, so we'll head on over to this side. Sorry, I'm mumbling my words here. Stumbling and mumbling. Apply your glue to this entire panel. Pull this top part back. Push that into that little crevice as far as it'll go. Make sure it's kind of butting up against its neighbor so everything looks nice and seamless. Should terminate nicely down at the bottom there. Should be pretty flush. And I don't really see much orange in between these layers at all. And if I do, I can always just kind of ink it and just dirty it up a little bit. After all, it is Halloween, and I'm not worried about perfection. You strive for it. But stuff happens. Life happens. Okay, there we go. That looks awesome. Okay, all right. This one now has the little holes for the handle. So just make sure that you've got the right piece. Let's move this out of the way. And just jam that right into that crevice as far as it'll go. Should line up nicely with the holes. And press and hold that down. Nice and flush. There we go. And now we can peel this back. Apply our glue to the two scored sections. I'm going to use my dowel to help push that middle piece up against the structure and then the top. And that just leaves one last panel. The engineering on this is superb. Everything lined up so nicely. Okay, and the last little piece here. I would be more concerned about just making sure that these black panels line up than I would be if you have a little bit of a gap. I don't even want to call it a gap. It looks great. No one's really going to be looking at the back part of this anyway. There we go. Pull these back. Apply your glue. Get that out to the edge on the top part. Pop that in there, pop that in there, and voila. Okay, this little lip here, we're going to put this on after we join everything else together. Okay, but there's that, and like I said, I may or may not just kind of take my ink pad. Where's my black? There it is. I might just take and just kind of hit the bottom of this with a little bit of extra black in any little spots where I may have a little bit of orange popping through, or maybe some of that white core's poking through, but I'm not overly concerned about it. It looks fantastic. All right, so now, well, we can do a few things. Let's put the handles together. Okay, so the handles are these pieces here. They're gonna go on back to back. We're gonna create a little sandwich. And then there's these two tabs that we're gonna use to adhere this to the inside. Okay, so that's gonna go like that. And then this one, these are going to go back to back with the pattern you want to see showing on the outside, obviously. And we're not going to put any glue on the tabs. We are only going to put glue on the main parts of the handle. I would not use these functionally. I mean, if you have some thicker paper that you're using, maybe. The paper that we decided to use is, I don't even think it's a full 80 pound. So I would not lift it up using the handles. And it's kind of a white core as well. So what I'll probably do is just hit the very edge of this with a little bit of ink just to blend everything a little bit better. But that looks good. And then what's going to happen here is we're going to take these, squeeze them together. You're going to push them through these little slits, like so. And then on the inside, we're going to spread the little tabs apart and glue them to the inside of the structure. Okay. So let's do that. See how that looks from the front. It looks great. Okay, so we'll put glue on the outside parts of the tab so that when we fold them down, they'll grip to the inside. Just make sure that it's nice and flush. And you can see how we've got a little handle there. Do the same thing with the ones on the bottom. You're going to repeat that process on the other side, obviously. Let's get that one in place. And this one's not plain ball. There we go. Okay, so there's one handle. We'll do the same thing with the other one. So we're going to join these two sections together. And of course, it's got the white core. So I'm just going to go around and get rid of that unsightly white. There we go. That's better. Yeah, maybe a little bit on top. All right. So just like we did, fold those little tabs in, poke them through the slit. And again, I'm going to put glue on the sides. There's one, there's two, there's three, there's four, and then we're going to spread them apart. Show you here. I'm going to spread them apart and push them up against the inside of the structure. Just make sure everything looks good from the outside. There we go. It's just a lot easier doing little features like this in 2-dimension. We've tried making little handles like this in 3D. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth all the time and effort. This gives the nice impression of handles without all of the tedious work. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to wrap this up. All right, so you'll notice here on the back that there's a series of score marks here. Okay, and what those are, well, and also you can see this little shape here. That shape should match up with the shape of the actual cauldron. Okay, so that's going to go on like this, and then we're going to cover that up in a second. But for now, what I would do is just apply glue, and be generous with the glue here. This is all going to get covered up, so if you get glue in areas that don't really need it, don't worry about it. But pretty much concentrate it like that. Then we're going to take this and this little area here that has that lip shape, match that up on both sides. There's also some score marks here on the left and right to make sure you've got it nice and centered. And you can put that down on your surface and press down. I think I got a little glue on my witch there. Just keep pressing that down. Let's take a look here. That looks nice. Yeah, and I'm going to just be patient with this. Now, one other thing too that I may do is I may take a thin dowel like this, like a nice thin dowel, paint it black or whatever color. It doesn't really matter. You probably don't even need to paint it. And what I would do, possibly, is just to kind of reinforce this, I'd hot glue it to the back, just so that this thing doesn't start to wobble. I mean, it seems like it's going to be okay, but we don't test these long term, so it's impossible to tell for sure. And then we're going to cover this up on the back with this piece here. Okay, so what you can do is just apply glue to this entire piece. Like so. And that's also going to kind of hold that in place as well. I'm going to hit this with some ink just to make it seem more seamless. Make sure it's flush with the bottom as well. Okay, once you've got that lined up, put that down on your surface and press down from the inside. And finally, all that's left to do is put our little lip on. Okay. And our lip is going to go on right here. It's going to be flush with the outside, and the inside is going to be like round. Okay, so there's nothing to look at from the inside. You're going to use the outside as kind of your guide. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to anchor it to the front center. I'm going to spread that glue out nice and thin, and you can see that this is segmented, so you can see where that goes. Get that nice and centered. Just press and hold that down for a moment. And then what we'll do is just go, and I'm going to paint glue around the rest of the perimeter to get that in place, and that's really going to do it. This thing is now ready. Okay, just going to go around the horn here and just line up each of these little sections, painting section by section with a little bit of glue. I don't want to try to do this all in one fell swoop. I just know it's going to be a disaster from experience. So just take a little bit of glue, paint it right underneath this little lip, line it up nicely. If you have to kind of give it a little squeeze, that's fine to get it into place. And just be patient and hold it while it sets. And then if necessary, I'm going to take my black ink and just kind of hit the edge of this. If there's a little bit of orange that's still poking through, we'll easily hide it. So there is the final product. I think it looks great. Took some 1/4 inch ribbon and just tied it around the back, filled it with some treats, and wow, how about that? So that's going to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to, well, I took some 1/4 inch ribbon here and just tied it around right here. I'm going to take my little brush with my black ink and just touch up any little areas where I have either white core or maybe a little bit of that orange poking through. And don't forget that if you want, I actually advise that you do it. Take a thin dowel and hot glue it to the back, starting at the top of the hat down to the bottom of the cauldron, just to keep this nice and sturdy. And that's going to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Hit that little bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new project, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I'd love to see it. And so would the rest of our community. Head over to your Facebook, do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where you'll find myself and over 40, almost 47,000 other dreamers that inspire us daily. So happy hauntings. And as always, I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos and please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section where you'll find over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly tutorials. I'll see you in the craft room.